love, honor, and the resume of marriage. Love in feudal Japan wasn't a spark, it was a strategy. There were no dating apps, no swiping right. But there were matchmakers, and background checks, and handwritten resumes. If you were a samurai, your love life was your family's business. Literally. Your status, your sword lineage, your land, all of it was reviewed before romance was even allowed. Marriages weren't about falling in love. They were about staying in your place, socially, politically, and sometimes even geographically. And yet, even in that tightly woven web of etiquette and expectation, love still found its way in. This is the story of how Japan matched its elite, of arranged meetings, secret glances, and the rituals behind every bow. Welcome to the ultimate samurai dating app. Scrolls, swords, and a lot of pressure to marry well. The Nakodo, Japan's professional matchmakers. In the world of feudal Japan, love didn't begin with a look. It began with a third party. Meet the Nakodo, Japan's traditional matchmakers. Usually women, these go-betweens were entrusted with one of the most delicate tasks in society, arranging a marriage that wouldn't cause shame, scandal, or war. Nakodo weren't just romantics. They were diplomats, family therapists, and information brokers. They managed the reputation dance between two clans, often consulting extended networks of relatives, neighbors, even temple priests to ensure compatibility. The process began with quiet inquiries. What's the daughter's family status? How much land do they own? Any history of scandal, disease, or dishonor? If everything looked promising, the Nakodo approached both families formally, sometimes through poetic letters, other times with elaborate ceremonial visits. Their role wasn't just to match two people, it was to prevent catastrophe. A bad match could mean broken alliances. A secret scandal, once revealed, could stain a family name for generations. Even after marriage, Nakodo were expected to mediate disputes between the couple, a kind of early couples therapy, feudal style. Their success wasn't measured in chemistry, but in harmony. A good match brought honor. A bad one could ruin everything. So, in a world without digital profiles or first-date banter, the Nakodo was the human algorithm, filtering through family crests instead of profile pics, arranging futures one bow at a time. The samurai resume, scrolls, stats, and status. Today, dating profiles might ask for your height, hobbies, or favorite song. In samurai Japan, you submitted a document that read more like a military dossier. Called a miai-sho, this marriage resume listed all the essential details. Name, family lineage, ancestral clan, land holdings, social reputation, and of course, any known scandals. For men, proof of samurai status, honorable service, and steady income were key. Bonus points if you had served under a respected lord or came from a line of loyal retainers. For women, the list leaned toward refinement. Could she play the koto, perform a tea ceremony, recite waka poetry? Weaving skill, etiquette, and education were prized. Physical beauty mattered, but it had rules. A high forehead, full eyebrows, and pale skin were considered signs of good fortune. Some women even shaved their eyebrows and repainted them higher to match the ideal form. More interesting still, personality traits were written in vague, poetic terms. Gentle as flowing water might mean quiet. Still as moonlight, obedient. And behind every resume was an unwritten truth. The family's actual reputation. Whispers of gambling, drunkenness, or dishonor could override even the most polished scroll. These weren't just introductions. They were social contracts in disguise. In a sense, the miai-sho was a pre-modern background check. Not for love, but for stability. A marriage wasn't just between two people. It was between two family trees. And in Japan, Trees were never allowed to fall without consequence. The first meeting: bow, sip, glance, repeat. Once the scrolls were exchanged and the reputations verified, the moment of truth arrived. The miai, the formal meeting between potential bride and groom. These weren't candlelit dinners or moonlit strolls. They were structured, silent, and very, very awkward. The meeting typically took place in a neutral location: a tea house, a noble home, or a quiet garden pavilion. The Nakodo, or sometimes parents, were always present. The potential couple might bow, sip tea, exchange short, respectful phrases. But everything, from eye contact to posture, was judged. If a man was too direct, it could be seen as arrogant. If a woman laughed too loudly, it was seen as improper. Appearance mattered, but so did behavior. Was she too shy? Was he too aggressive? Could they sit in silence without shame? The point wasn't chemistry, it was compatibility, under surveillance. In some cases, the bride and groom barely spoke. Instead, the adults present observed and discussed. Afterward, both sides quietly reported back to the Nakodo, yes or no. If both parties agreed, the engagement could proceed. If not, the process restarted with another scroll, another name, another chance. But make no mistake, for the families involved, this meeting was a battlefield of etiquette. One wrong move, and an entire alliance could collapse. Love might have whispered in glances, but tradition always spoke louder. Dowries and swords, the transaction of marriage. If the meeting went well, it was time to seal the deal, not with a kiss, but with an exchange. In samurai society, marriage was not a private vow. It was a public transaction. Families exchanged dowries and gifts, often in elaborate ceremonies. For the bride's family, this meant providing goods to support the new union: bolts of silk, lacquered chests, rice, gold, or even property. For the groom, a symbolic gift, often a sword, was given to mark his readiness to protect, provide, and uphold the family's honor. These gifts weren't just gestures, they were social proof. A well-matched dowry showed the bride's worth and the family's prosperity. A well-forged sword showed the groom's standing and strength. In some high-ranking cases, these negotiations were more intense than political treaties. A bride from a powerful clan could shift the balance of influence, especially if land or titles were involved. Contracts were drawn up and stamped with official seals. Witnesses were present. Entire villages might be aware of the arrangement. And once the terms were set, the date was chosen, often with the help of astrology or temple priests who divined lucky days for weddings. Then came the wedding itself, a solemn, quiet affair focused not on vows, but on ritual. The couple would sip sake in a 3-part ceremony, binding their lives not with words, but with tradition. It was beautiful, symbolic, but make no mistake, it was a deal. In this world, marriage wasn't the beginning of romance, it was the forging of an alliance. And like any sword worth carrying, it had to be balanced. Secret love, fans, letters, and forbidden glances. Not every marriage in feudal Japan was warm, not every one was wanted. But in the quiet spaces between rules, some love stories still found air to breathe. Secret courtships existed, even among samurai. Forbidden glances behind fans, smuggled poetry written on rice paper, tiny gifts tucked into sleeves. Lovers often used tanka poetry to express feelings without being direct. A 5-line verse might be filled with longing, coded metaphors, or double meanings. Women might lower a fan just slightly, a sign of interest. Men might send symbolic flowers or painted trinkets, but everything had to be hidden in layers of etiquette. Sometimes, love bloomed after marriage. A couple arranged by their families might, over time, build trust, respect, even passion. But others weren't so lucky. There were tales of women trapped in cold unions, of men who fell in love with geisha or commoners, of star-crossed affairs that ended in shame or ritual suicide. In rare cases, lovers ran away, abandoning their names, homes, and duty. Such scandals were whispered about for years, even generations. Some stories ended in punishment, others became legends. There's even a word in Japanese, en, meaning fate, connection, or the invisible threads that tie people together. And no matter how tightly society tried to control love, those threads always found a way to tangle. Behind the scrolls and swords, behind the perfect Mii resume, there were hearts, beating, hoping, even in a world that didn't leave much room for them. Romance by reputation. For the samurai, love wasn't left to chance. It was mapped out, vetted, exchanged, and agreed upon, all before the couple even shared a private moment. It was duty before desire, reputation before romance. But still, love did happen. In quiet ways, in poems passed under doors, in long glances over tea, in the smallest breaches of etiquette. That said everything. The Nakodo may have arranged the meeting, the scroll may have sealed the deal, but sometimes, just sometimes, two people actually fell in love. Maybe not in the way we expect, but in a way that lasted. If you loved this glimpse into samurai romance, let us know below. Subscribe for more hidden histories from feudal Japan, where every scroll had a secret and every bow told a story.